everyone. Welcome to the Trucking Tower podcast and this segment of Venture Capital Expert Insights. I'm very excited to be joined today by Mark Roman. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Andy. Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on with me. I've enjoyed talking with you offline here. And I really appreciate you sharing your insights and expertise with our viewers. I just got a few questions here I wanted to walk through with you.
Sure.
First of all, just to kind of kick us off, where were you? What happened? Who are you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you're doing today?
Well, I guess pay it forward is kind of my theme. I've been in business for 35 years, all in technology and manufacturing and healthcare and trucking and other industries. And I frankly was getting tired of the corporate life. And I ended up having emergency brain surgery. And one of my old colleagues from Accenture contacted me about starting Denovo Advisors. And we only do two things. We do operational diligence for private equity and venture capital. And we help founders or those folks who have their own companies. We help them to get their operations in shape to make them attractive candidates for capital infusion from venture capital or private equity. So that's what we do at Denovo. And I'm with Greg Johnson, my business partner and friend for 33 years. We trust each other implicitly. And so that's what Denovo is all about. So I'm happy to be here, Andy.
Well, I'm really happy to have you. It's interesting. I worked at Arthur Andersen.
Okay.
They were with Andersen Consulting and then split and became Accenture and Arthur Andersen. So I was at that company at that time. It was an interesting time to be involved with that. In terms of advice, what are the top 3 mistakes to avoid based on things you've seen over the years?
Well, one is don't fall in love with the process of trying to acquire capital. I see many organizations that fall in love with the process and they love to shop their companies around, but you need to get that capital infusion to keep moving forward. And the second piece of advice is once you get the check, once you get that capital infusion, that is not the end of the game. That's the starting gun.
Right.
Because at that point in time, that's when the real work starts. That's when you have an investor who now expects that you're going to perform on all of those business plans that you presented. And so that's when the starting gun starts, is when you get that capital infusion. And then just 2 other bits would be check your ego at the door. Know when you don't know something and seek advice. And don't treat your investor like the enemy. They want you to succeed as much or more so than you do. So listen to them, embrace them. And when they're asking you questions or giving you advice, they're not being critical because they don't want you to succeed. They're actually being critical because they want you to succeed. So check your ego at the door and ask for help. Those would be two of my biggest pieces of advice, Andy.
Okay. And on that same vein, my next question is kind of what are your top 3 success secrets from things that you've seen from entrepreneurs and founders and venture capital over the years? What are, some of the success secrets?
Well, my personal motto has always been, I don't get mad, I don't get even, I get ahead. So don't waste 1 ounce of energy on carrying a grudge. Keep looking forward, don't look back, because what's in the rearview mirror is behind you. You want to keep your eye on where you're going, not where you've been. The other success factors would be the opposite of those other issues. So not asking for help. Asking for help is a success factor, and not thinking that you know it all. Asking for help, and honestly, it's surrounding yourself with people who are supportive. Uh, if you have people who are naysayers, um, and I mean naysayers, not people who are trying to give you constructive criticism, but people who are telling you that you're crazy. You can't do that, Andy. You're never too old or too young to start down a road, and persevere. If you have a dream, keep going, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't sacrifice your dream because someone who has given up on their dream is telling you you can't achieve what you want to, because you can.
Right.
Persevere.
Great advice. I love that. So, how can we support you? What we can do to kind of spread the word about you, or how can we support you?
Well, if anybody out there is in the venture capital or private equity world and looking for someone to help support them in operational diligence, that's Denovo Advisors. We don't do any financial diligence or legal, because you're smart folks, you're investors, you already have those teams, but we bring our expertise to the table in the operational area. So that would be one. And then the second would be any of those folks who are listening or watching who are founders or entrepreneurs and are interested in getting their company, their idea polished, ready for investment. Look us up, because that's another service that we provide, is to help them get ready for the process of investment and really focus on their operations and how they can sustain the profitability and the operational targets that they've set for themselves. That's how you can help, Andy. And
Okay.
and honestly, you're helping by this interview.
It's funny. It works both ways. So we'll get views and traffic and so forth from this as well. So it's good for both of us in that way. So what would you say for those entrepreneurs, business owners out there, as a final word, navigating this whole world of banking and private equity and so forth? What would be your kind
Sure.
of final word, piece of advice?
My final word of advice would be people first. Business moves at the speed of trust, and as Andy and I had talked about offline, um, computer systems and AI bots and everything else, those are tools. They don't accomplish business. It's people that accomplish business, and people
Right.
buy from and really gravitate toward people that they trust and that they like. And assuming you've got a solution that has a good fit with what their needs are. And that would be the other piece of advice, is know your business. Know exactly not only what your customer is going to get out of your solution, but what your customer's customer is going to get out of the solution. How is what you're going to be doing supporting their businesses? Those are things that a lot of times entrepreneurs and founders ignore, or they lose sight of. And you need to keep your eye on the prize. And as I said, business moves at the speed of trust. So surround yourself with folks that you trust. And the other piece of advice I would give, and this is general, is read. And by read, I mean either physically reading with your eyes or listening to podcasts and audiobooks and things of that nature. If you just listen 20 minutes a day or read 20 minutes a day on your chosen field or topic, in 1 year, you will be within the top 5% of people with knowledge about that particular topic. And so 20 minutes a day is a small investment to be an expert in 1 year. And whether that's trucking or technology or publishing or whatever the solution happens to be, absorb, be a sponge, read, listen, listen to podcasts, watch video logs, video blogs, and that would be it, Andy.
Well, I totally agree with all of that. And I love to read. So I've thought about doing segments on books, and you've written a book. So
I have written a book.
want to show you actually have one nearby, don't you?
I do. I actually just autographed this for a reader. It's Conquering the Boundaries of Friendship is my first title. And I've got 2 more titles that are coming out later this year. The next one is actually called Securing Financing for Founders and Entrepreneurs, How to Finance or Launch Your Business. And I'm writing that, co-authoring that with my business partner, Greg Johnson. And then the third title that's coming out this year is it's You're Cured, the definitive guide to the healing process for patients and caregivers. And I've interviewed over 400 people for that book. And for our book on financing, we've interviewed 150 people. And so we have some of the world's experts, from people like KKR, Kravis Coburg Roberts, Advent, Arsenal Capital, from Kleiner Perkins, some of the big boys in the investment world that are all colleagues of myself and my business partner. So this is one of those, which is we've actually been approached by a business school to use it as a reading for their entrepreneurial organization, because both my business partner and I have started and sold off companies, as well as oh, sorry. My watch is talking to me.
It's okay. That's technology for you.
That's technology. Yep, somebody's always listening. In this case, it was Siri.
Yeah. You'll have to keep me in your messaging about that book coming up into the investment world. It's I'm fascinated by it. It's something you don't learn in high school and college. This whole world of what to do, how to prepare, how to get funding, what to do for funding, what not to do for funding. That's just not something that's really covered.
No.
So I'm always, I'm fascinated by it. I'm navigating that area myself. So
and we opened the aperture because originally we were just doing it on private equity and venture capital. And then as we were talking to people about what they needed, people said, well, what about small business administration loans? What about bank loans? Bootstrapping, right? You see a lot of entrepreneurs that'll cash out their 401k or max out their credit cards. And, that's all very glamorous, and it can work, but there's also risks associated with it. And there are a number of specialty organizations. I've personally worked with AWIB, Asian Women in Business, which is a group that has funding for Asian women who are starting their own businesses. And there are a number of those. And then there's crowdsourcing. And, there's a number of different options today. And you're right. You don't get taught that in business school. It's kind of one of those where you kind of have to stumble through it yourself.
Right. Figure it out as you go.
It is exactly. Learn as you go.
Yep, exactly right. So, well, I really appreciate you coming on with me, Mark. It's been fun talking with you, and we're definitely going to have to keep in touch. We've got a lot of good synergies. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Trucking Tower Podcast, Venture Capital Expert Insights. Thanks again, Mark, for coming on with me today.
All right, Andy, thank you so much for having me, and good luck to all of your viewers and listeners.